Colin Cornes had always considered himself a rational man. He believed in logic, in the predictable patterns of daily life, and in the comfort of knowing that the world mostly made sense. Yet, one night, everything he understood about reality began to unravel. It started quietly, almost imperceptibly, as he settled into his usual evening routine. The air carried a stillness that felt unnatural, a weight that pressed subtly upon his senses, demanding attention. There was a faint flicker of movement in the distance, barely visible at first, but it drew his eyes like a magnet. Shapes began to emerge, dark silhouettes against the dim glow of the streetlights, and the rational part of his mind tried to dismiss them as tricks of the shadows. Yet, instinctively, he knew this was no ordinary illusion. The figures moved with an eerie precision, gliding across the ground with a grace that was disconcerting. They were humanoid in shape but elongated, unnaturally thin, with limbs that seemed to stretch beyond the bounds of human anatomy. Their heads were slightly larger than normal, and their eyes were vast, reflecting light in a way that made them appear almost otherworldly. There was a palpable aura of malevolence surrounding them, something that went beyond fear and entered the realm of instinctive terror. Colin's heart raced as he tried to comprehend the impossibility of what he was seeing. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, to pull back and shut himself away from whatever this was. But an invisible force seemed to root him in place, compelling him to observe, to bear witness to the scene unfolding before him. As the beings drew closer, Colin could see the fluidity of their movements, the way their limbs glided almost effortlessly, without the normal resistance of muscles and joints. They were precise, deliberate, and utterly alien in every motion. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end, and a cold, creeping sensation spread through his body, as though the air itself had turned against him. The first thing Colin noticed in detail were their eyes. Large, luminous, and unblinking, they seemed to pierce directly into his mind, reading thoughts and fears that he had never voiced aloud. The intensity of their gaze was overwhelming, making him feel exposed and vulnerable in a way that no human presence could evoke. Their faces, though vaguely humanoid, lacked the warmth or familiarity of any living being he had encountered. There were no expressions, no subtle changes in emotion, only a relentless, cold observation that made him question the very fabric of reality. As the entities approached, the surrounding world seemed to shift. Shadows deepened unnaturally, sounds from the street outside faded into silence, and the familiar lines of his home appeared distorted under the weight of their presence. The sense of isolation was suffocating, as if the beings had carved out a space around him, separating him from the normal flow of time and sound. Colin's mind raced, trying to rationalize what he was seeing, to convince himself that this was a dream, a hallucination, or a trick of light and shadow. But nothing about the scene conformed to anything remotely human or explainable. He could feel the energy emanating from them, a cold and alien force that seemed to press against his consciousness. Every instinct screamed danger, yet there was no movement toward aggression. Rather, their attention was focused, piercing, and unyielding. He felt that every thought, every memory, every hidden fear was laid bare before these beings, examined in silence. Time itself seemed to stretch, seconds elongating into what felt like minutes, as he remained rooted in place, unable to look away, unable to move. Then, in a motion almost imperceptible, the entities paused just outside the reach of his window. The world seemed to shrink, leaving only him and the beings in a suspended reality where nothing else existed. The silence was overwhelming, dense with an almost physical weight that pressed upon his chest and ears. Colin could hear only his own rapid heartbeat, a drumming that seemed to echo in the empty space around him. The stillness was not peaceful, it was heavy, oppressive, and filled with an expectation that he could not name. As he stared, he noticed the subtle details that made the encounter even more surreal. Their skin appeared slightly translucent, revealing faint, shifting patterns underneath, like the surface of water disturbed by hidden currents. Their hands, elongated and delicate, hovered just above the ground, moving in perfect coordination with their bodies. Even the faintest of motions felt intentional, as though every movement carried meaning that he could not yet comprehend. The entity's eyes intensified, the faint glow becoming sharper and more penetrating. Colin felt as if his entire being was under scrutiny, every thought, fear, and memory laid bare. He sensed a presence far older and more intelligent than any human mind could contain. It was a feeling that transcended fear. It was awe intertwined with terror, a recognition that he was witnessing something profoundly beyond his comprehension. Suddenly, they moved again, gliding backward, almost as if they sensed the limits of their observation had been reached. Yet, even as they retreated, the oppressive energy lingered, a reminder that the encounter was not simply over. Colin's body felt numb, his mind struggling to process the impossible reality he had witnessed. He wanted to call for help, to tell someone, anyone, what he had seen, but the words failed him. No one would believe such a story. No explanation could account for the precision, the intelligence, or the malevolent yet incomprehensible nature of these beings. Then, with a motion that defied gravity, they began to ascend. There was no sound, no ripple in the air, only the slow, silent lifting of their bodies until they vanished entirely into the night sky. Colin stood frozen, unable to comprehend the sudden emptiness, the abrupt end to the presence that had dominated his senses moments before. The silence that followed was heavier than the encounter itself, as though the world had exhaled in their departure, leaving him alone with the lingering impression of the impossible. In the aftermath, Colin found himself questioning everything. The room felt alien, familiar objects seeming strange and out of place. He experienced an acute hyper-awareness, noticing every shadow, every sound, every flicker of light. Footsteps echoed in empty corridors, objects shifted in ways he could not explain, whispers brushed against his ears, fleeting and unintelligible. It became clear that the encounter had left a residual presence, a reminder that his world had changed irreversibly. He reached out to those who specialized in the unexplained, seeking guidance or understanding. Hypnosis revealed even more details, the memories of the beings, tall, thin, otherworldly, etched vividly in his mind. He described their glowing eyes, elongated forms, subtle patterns beneath translucent skin, and movements that defied all natural laws. Each memory was more precise and terrifying than the last, leaving him shaken even as he recalled them in a controlled environment. Despite all investigations, the origins of the entities remained a mystery. Were they extraterrestrials observing humanity, interdimensional beings peering into a reality parallel to our own, or manifestations of something far older and hidden within the fabric of consciousness? No theory fully accounted for every detail, leaving the encounter shrouded in enduring mystery. Colin's story became a source of fascination among enthusiasts of the paranormal. Forums and communities dissected his experience, debating the implications and possibilities. While skeptics suggested hallucinations or misinterpretation, the vividness and consistency of his memories suggested an encounter rooted in reality, one that transcended ordinary explanation. Over time, Colin documented his findings meticulously, collecting accounts of similar encounters, patterns, and behaviors. He compared notes with others who had witnessed inexplicable phenomena, noticing recurring elements, glowing eyes, elongated forms, silent movements, and the persistent feeling of observation. Each story reinforced the possibility that something beyond human comprehension existed, something both intelligent and aware of those it observed. Even years later, Colin continued to notice subtle anomalies. Shadows moved independently of light sources, sounds emanated from empty spaces, and the sensation of being observed never fully dissipated. The encounter had altered his perception permanently, opening a window into a reality where the boundaries of the known world were fluid, uncertain, and fraught with the extraordinary. Colin's experience serves as a chilling reminder that the world may hold entities, forces, and intelligences that elude human understanding. His encounter was not just terrifying, it was transformative, forcing him to confront fear at its most elemental, to witness intelligence and awareness beyond the human scale, and to recognize the fragility of our perception of reality. In the years following the encounter, Colin became a meticulous chronicler of the unexplained. He compiled detailed reports, sought corroborating evidence, and reached out to others who had experienced similar phenomena. His work helped form a network of witnesses, each contributing to a growing tapestry of knowledge about encounters that defy rational explanation. Through careful documentation, Colin hoped to build understanding, if not certainty, about the forces he had witnessed. The beings, though gone, left a lasting impact on him. The fear they inspired was profound, yet it coexisted with a strange sense of wonder. They were intelligent, purposeful, and entirely alien entities that challenged every assumption he had about life, consciousness, and the universe. Their presence suggested a reality far richer and more complex than human perception alone could grasp. Colin Cornes' encounter, terrifying and inexplicable as it was, stands as one of the most compelling modern accounts of a direct experience with unknown beings. It reminds us that even in a world governed by reason, logic, and science, there are phenomena that resist explanation. His story continues to inspire, haunt, and challenge those who hear it, raising questions about the limits of human understanding and the vastness of the unknown. The legacy of that night, the figures, their glowing eyes, the silent observation, remains etched in Colin's mind. Every shadow, every flicker of light, every unexplained sound serves as a reminder of that encounter. It is a story of fear, wonder, and the haunting awareness that the universe is far stranger and more mysterious than we are prepared to imagine. Through his documentation, Colin sought not just to make sense of what he had seen, but to offer a guide for others who might encounter the inexplicable. His detailed observations, careful recollections, and relentless pursuit of understanding transformed a terrifying experience into a lifelong quest for knowledge, awareness, and insight into the unseen forces that may coexist with our reality. Even now, years later, the story resonates. The beings may never return, yet their presence continues to echo through Colin's life. Each unexplained occurrence, each subtle anomaly, carries a whisper of that night. It is a story of fear, wonder, and the haunting awareness that the universe is far stranger and more mysterious than we are prepared to imagine. The encounter of Colin Cornes remains a testament to the unknown. It is a narrative that blends terror with fascination, reality with the incomprehensible, and reminds us that some experiences defy explanation, leaving only questions, awe, and an enduring sense of mystery.